They say the darkest roads sometimes lead to the brightest miracles, but Samantha had stopped believing in miracles a long time ago. A struggling single mother, drowning in overdue bills and double shifts at the diner, the only thing she still held on to was her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. But one rainy night, an unexpected detour through a muddy backroad would change her life forever. It wasn't fate that made her swerve, it was a flicker of movement in the headlights. What she found would unravel a tale of cruelty, hope, and shocking revelation buried beneath layers of mud and silence. Storytelling and beyond. The night was unforgiving. Thick rain lashed against the windshield of Samantha's old sedan as she gripped the steering wheel with tired hands, her knuckles white from both cold and anxiety. The dashboard lights flickered intermittently, another thing she couldn't afford to fix. In the back seat, little Lily was curled up under a threadbare blanket, her soft breathing the only calming sound amid the storm outside. Samantha hadn't meant to take this route. Her usual way home was blocked off by construction, and GPS had rerouted her through an unfamiliar stretch of narrow road flanked by forest on one side and a deep muddy drop on the other. The kind of place you don't want to be when your car's tires are already bald. She muttered under her breath, blinking hard to stay awake. The road was barely lit, winding dangerously. Then, just as she rounded a bend, her headlights caught a flash of movement. Something. Someone? She slammed on the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the wet gravel, stopping just short of the ditch. Heart racing, Samantha leaned forward, peering through the rain-streaked windshield. There, not 10 feet away, a small figure was sprawled in the mud. No, 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 she murmured, throwing the car into park and leaping into the rain. As her boots sank into the thick muck, she saw him, half-buried, caked in dirt and soaked to the bone. A boy. Maybe 10 years old. His skin was pale, lips trembling, eyes wide open but unfocused. Beside him, a torn duffel bag sat like a ghost in the mud, partially zipped open. What spilled from it didn't register at first. Bundles of money. Dozens of them. Samantha didn't care. She dropped to her knees, frantically brushing mud from the boy's face. Hey! Can you hear me? Stay with me, okay? The boy flinched weakly at her touch. He was alive. Without thinking, she hoisted him into her arms, staggering under his weight. Mud clung to her clothes, rain drenched her through, but she got him to the car, laid him across the back seat, and turned the heat up full blast. Lily stirred, blinking at the boy beside her. Mommy, she asked softly. It's okay, baby. He's hurt. We need to get him warm. Samantha hesitated for a moment before running back into the rain and grabbing the duffel bag. She didn't know why. Maybe to hide it. Maybe because leaving it felt like abandoning a part of the boy's mystery. Back in the car, she drove straight home. Her modest apartment on the second floor of an old brick building was barely big enough for 2 people, let alone 3. But none of that mattered. She laid him down on the couch, wrapped him in every blanket she could find, and made warm soup on the stovetop. Lily watched quietly as her mom tended to the boy. Her eyes wide with innocent curiosity, as if trying to understand the weight of what was happening. Hours passed. The boy didn't speak. He shivered, drank some soup, and drifted into an exhausted sleep. Samantha sat on the edge of the couch, her clothes still damp, the duffel bag zipped shut beside her. She hadn't looked inside. She didn't want to know. She just knew that something about this wasn't right. She called no one. Not the police. Not child services. Her instincts screamed against it. This boy had been out there in the middle of nowhere with a bag of money, alone, half-buried like someone wanted him gone. Something told her if she reported him, he'd vanish again, this time for good. That night, she sat by the window, staring into the rain, questions churning in her mind. Who was he? Where had he come from? What happened to him? She didn't have answers. But she had made a choice. She was going to protect him. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind puddles in the parking lot and a dense fog hanging over the rooftops. Samantha hadn't slept. Her body was aching from exhaustion, but her mind was on high alert. She kept checking on the boy, now curled up beside Lily, both of them wrapped in warm blankets. The boy had finally stopped shivering, his breathing steady, though he hadn't said a word since arriving. The duffel bag sat untouched by the door. Samantha had ignored it as long as she could, but as the sun broke through the gray clouds, lighting up the room with soft gold, curiosity pushed her past the threshold of hesitation. With a deep breath, she knelt down and unzipped the bag. Money. Bundles and bundles, stacked tightly, bound with bands, some marked with bank names, others completely blank. Her hands trembled as she touched the top layer. It didn't seem real. It couldn't be real. There had to be at least a few $100,000 inside. Maybe more. She zipped it shut quickly, her heart pounding. Questions she'd tried to bury the night before now came flooding in. Who was this boy? Was he in danger? Was someone looking for him, or worse, looking for the money? Just then, a small voice came from behind her. My name is Adam. She turned, startled. The boy was sitting up, eyes sunken but alert. His voice was soft, uncertain. Hi, Adam, she said gently, moving closer. I'm Samantha. And that's my daughter, Lily. Adam looked around the room, then at the windows, then back at her. Is this your house? She nodded. It's not much, but yeah, it's home. He was quiet for a long moment. Thank you for saving me. Samantha swallowed hard. Do you want to tell me what happened? Adam's gaze drifted to the floor. He seemed to battle with something inside before answering. I ran away. From where? He hesitated. A big house. Outside the city. I don't know where exactly. Were you living there? She asked softly. I was kept there. I think I was supposed to be adopted, but they never let me leave. They never let me go outside. I heard them say they'd take care of the estate. I didn't know what that meant. Samantha's heart sank. Who were they, Adam? He looked up. They said they were my aunt and uncle. But I don't remember them. I don't remember my parents either. She reached out and gently took his hand. You're safe now, okay? I promise. That afternoon, she returned to the diner for her shift, with Adam and Lily in tow. She couldn't leave them alone, not now. Her manager wasn't happy, but he allowed her to keep them in the corner booth with some coloring books and snacks. Throughout the shift, she caught Adam staring at every adult who walked in, flinching every time the door opened. He was scared of what, she didn't fully know. But it was clear he had seen something no child should. Later, after dinner, as the kids sat on the floor playing quietly, Samantha sat beside her elderly neighbor, Mr. Harlan Graves. He was a retired detective who had taken a liking to Lily and often left her little wooden toys he carved himself. She told him part of the story, enough to show her concern without revealing too much. Graves listened, his brows drawn in a thoughtful frown. Kid sounds like he's been through hell, he muttered. You say there was money? She nodded slowly. He leaned closer. You be careful, Samantha. If he ran from the kind of people I'm thinking of, they're not going to stop looking. But you did right taking him in. Sometimes the world forgets how to be human. Sounds like you haven't. Samantha smiled faintly, though her heart remained heavy. That night, she watched Adam and Lily asleep on the couch, their fingers loosely intertwined. They had bonded quickly, two small souls carrying big weights. In a strange, twisted way, fate had brought them together. And she knew, deep in her gut, that this was just the beginning. 3 days passed. Adam began to speak more, slowly emerging from the shell of fear that had cocooned him. But Samantha noticed things that didn't add up. His vocabulary was far beyond that of a typical 10-year-old. He spoke with the clarity of someone who had listened carefully to every conversation around him. He knew details about legal documents, property, trusts, words a child shouldn't be using so fluently. That morning, while Lily was at school and Adam was helping fold laundry, Samantha gently asked, Adam, this house you ran from, what do you remember about it? Anything you can tell me might help keep you safe. Adam hesitated, then sat on the edge of the couch, folding a towel with trembling hands. It was really big. Marble floors, glass doors. There was a room full of books, law books. And men who wore suits came sometimes. My aunt called it the estate. They said when I turned 12, everything would be mine, but she didn't like that. Samantha's chest tightened. She didn't like what, sweetheart? That I would get it all. She said I was a stupid little liability. One night, I heard them arguing. They were yelling. She said, we don't need him alive to keep the money flowing. And then I wasn't allowed to leave my room anymore. Samantha froze. This wasn't a runaway. This was an attempted cover-up. A child who was likely heir to a massive inheritance, targeted by the very people meant to care for him. She reached for her phone, but stopped herself. If what Adam said was true, reporting it without protection might put him right back into their hands. Do you remember their names? She asked. He nodded. Edward and Marissa Hale. Samantha's eyes widened. That name was familiar. She had heard it once long ago, when a wealthy philanthropist couple had died in a car crash just outside the city. The papers mentioned their estate was passed to distant relatives and that their only child was presumed dead in the same accident. But, what if that wasn't true? Adam wasn't just an orphan. He was that orphan. The knock on the door came just after midnight. Samantha jumped, her breath catching in her throat. Adam had fallen asleep curled up beside Lily again. She tiptoed to the peephole and peeked through. Two men in suits stood outside, their expressions unreadable. She didn't answer. Her instincts screamed danger. They knocked again, more forcefully. Then one of them spoke, voice calm but cold. We know you have something that belongs to us. We suggest you hand it over before things get complicated. Samantha backed away from the door, heart racing. She grabbed her phone and dialed a number she hadn't thought she'd use, Mr. Harlan Graves. Within 20 minutes, his truck pulled into the lot, headlights off. The men had left, but Graves knew their kind. He listened quietly as she relayed everything Adam had told her. I'm going to need a friend of mine on this, he muttered. Federal kind. But in the meantime, don't answer that door again unless it's me. Samantha nodded, her jaw clenched with fear and fury. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat by the window again, the duffel bag now hidden beneath a loose floorboard she had pried open with a hammer. She had no idea how much danger she was in, but she knew one thing for certain: she wasn't letting anyone take that boy. Not while she was breathing. As dawn broke, Adam stirred, coming to sit beside her on the window bench. I'm sorry, he whispered. For bringing trouble. She wrapped an arm around him, pulling him close. You didn't bring trouble, Adam. You brought a chance to do something right. And in that moment, he smiled, small, but real. It was the first time Samantha had seen him do it. A child's smile, fragile and brave, blooming in the face of danger. The next few days were a whirlwind of fear, strategy, and guarded hope. Samantha and Adam didn't leave the house unless absolutely necessary. Lily, sensing the tension, stayed close to her mother's side, unaware of the true storm that hovered just outside their small apartment. Harlan Graves, true to his word, brought in someone he trusted, Agent Leah Turner, a sharp-eyed federal investigator who specialized in estate fraud and missing person cases. She arrived in jeans and a leather jacket, looking more like a biker than a Fed, but her presence calmed Samantha instantly. Let's get to work, she said after hearing Adam's full story. With Adam's permission, they took photos of the documents found in the duffel bag: wills, deeds, certificates that had somehow been stashed away by whoever had been trying to erase the boy's existence. What shocked Agent Turner most was that Adam's parents' death certificates listed him as deceased as well. A lie, now unraveling. This is bigger than greed, she said, scrolling through her tablet. This is criminal conspiracy, attempted murder, identity fraud. These people didn't just want to take his inheritance, they wanted to erase him entirely. Samantha couldn't help but glance over at Adam, who sat silently coloring with Lily on the carpet, as if he didn't carry the weight of all this on his tiny shoulders. "Can we keep him safe?" she asked. "We can do more than that," Turner replied. "We're going to make sure he gets justice." By the end of the week, the pieces had started falling into place. Arrest warrants were issued for Edward and Marissa Hale. Graves watched from a distance as black cars rolled up to the gate of their mansion, and men in uniforms stormed the marble halls they once ruled with cold calculation. It was over. When the news broke, Samantha didn't cry. She just sat beside Adam, who looked up at her and asked, "So what happens now?" She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Now, we start again." 2 weeks later, the estate's trustees met with Agent Turner and Adam's new legal guardian, Samantha. Though she hadn't planned it, though it wasn't on any path she had ever imagined for her life, it had become clear that no one else had earned the role more. She'd loved and protected him without condition. And he had clung to her like a lifeline. That day, dressed in clothes slightly too big and shoes slightly too tight, Adam walked hand in hand with Samantha into the grand office building downtown. He didn't flinch when they passed the security guards. He didn't hide when the lawyer read out the details of his inheritance. But when he was asked if he had anything to say, he stood and spoke in a quiet but steady voice. "I don't care about the money. I just want to stay with Samantha and Lily. They're my family now." The room was silent. Then the lawyer cleared his throat and smiled. "Well, son, that can certainly be arranged." Months passed. A new house came into their lives, not a mansion like the Hales, but a charming home in a sunny neighborhood with a garden for Lily and a dog named Biscuit for Adam. Samantha went back to waitressing part-time, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Life had changed, yes, but her values hadn't. And Adam? He started school with Lily, made new friends, and laughed the kind of laugh Samantha hadn't even realized he was capable of. The shadows of his past didn't vanish overnight. But they faded with each sunrise, each shared meal, each bedtime story in a home filled with warmth and laughter. They weren't broken people who'd been rescued. They were whole hearts who had found each other in the most unexpected way. This is Storytelling and Beyond. Please subscribe, like, and share if you find this story helpful.